welcome to Freda Healing Arts. I'm your host, Freda, and I am the healing artist. If you're watching this on video, I'm coming at you first thing in the morning, February 16th, 2025. This morning while in meditation, I thought it would be fun to talk about self-love today. Self-love is it is the technique in my life that has helped me the most. Along the healing journey, it's been this, then this, then this, then this. Like, it's been like stages. So I went through a whole surrender release process of like moving stuck energy, followed by working with some healers to like also clear other things that I didn't have access to, followed by so many spiritual texts, so many spiritual teachings, followed by amazing awakenings and all of this sort of exciting stuff. More surrender release. I got really into using the emotion code at one point, and still I'm very proficient in the emotion code. Although I did not take the course to be able to tell you I am an emotion code practitioner, I'm incredibly proficient with that tool. And just so many different things. And through all of that, self-compassion, self-love, falling in love with myself, learning to love me, being compassionate with the I, that is probably, after everything I've done, the tool that I would say, if you're just beginning your spiritual journey, jump in with the falling in love with yourself. Jump in with that self-compassion alongside everything else as you go. So one of my wonderful teachers that I have, Marie Mandicherry, someone who I study mediumship with, she is always talking about old souls and younger souls and medium souls, and like the idea of like, what are these different souls here to learn? And old souls are here to learn self-compassion from her perspective, from her point of view. And when I feel into that, that really resonates with me, and it's something that I have had to work on my entire life. So I spent most of my life absolutely self-loathing and hating myself. It is only like within the last 5 years that I have begun the process of falling in love with myself. And now I can tell you that I do truly, deeply love myself. And it is a daily practice. And it's not a concept. It's not something we think of in our heads. It's a lived, felt, through and through, completely, totally embodied experience. Self-love. So Marie talks about old souls being here to learn self-compassion. This resonates in a way because, like, when I was a very young child, I spent a swath of years in my childhood being molested. And I forgave my abuser long before I was ever able to forgive myself. Now, I was a little child. It happened between the ages of 5 to 7 that this took place. And it wasn't until I was maybe in my earlier 30s that I really, truly believed that I wasn't responsible for what happened to me. I mean, when you let that one sink in, it's, Of course I wasn't responsible for what happened to me. I was 5. And the teaching in looking back at all of this is, honestly, at this point in time, I wouldn't be who I am if this thing hadn't happened to me that set me on the path that I'm on now, that set me on this spiritual, soul-seeking journey to figure out what the point of anything is. that led me to self-love, that led me to a life where I love getting up every morning. I love being here. I love being embodied, and I love my life. None of that would have happened. I just wouldn't be that person. So for all of those years that I was so angry, I don't regret any of those years. I mean, they were exactly what they were. They were the journey. The journey is this lady that's sitting here now. So back to self-love as being a practice. If you are a listener here, a few episodes ago, I was reminding myself to be kind and love me because I was 3 minutes late to yoga and I was feeling some ooh around it. Again, it's a practice. Kind, compassionate to the self. So something I've come to kind of realize just sort of by existing in the world and talking to others and having friends and family members and just being part of things is the majority of people are self-critical that I know, are really just hard on themselves, or that they loathe themselves in one way, or they don't accept an aspect of their body, or they beat themselves up for something they ate, or just people are hard on themselves, man. So I want to share with you a book that I wrote. Now, this is the proof copy of the book. It doesn't exist yet. This is the proof. But it's a book called Learning to Love Myself. It's 60 pages. And it is a rhyming story about how I learned the self-love process. But at the beginning of the book, I have 2-page spread here. And the 2-page spread is about what are some examples of self-love. And I'd love to just read these 2 pages to you so that we can explore these concepts together more. And this is just my thoughts. These are my thoughts. So I would ask you, what are some examples of self-love that you can come up with? But here's some ones that I put in the book. Self-love is showing up for yourself no matter what. Self-love is setting and honoring your boundaries. Self-love is putting your own mask on first. And if you want to know what that means, that's in reference to getting on an airplane, and when you're shown that sort of like tutorial at the beginning where the flight attendant is showing you, and if we should experience some altitude issues, this oxygen mask is going to drop from the ceiling, and this is how you put it on your face. And then they say, put your own mask on first before helping others. So that's what I mean by that. Self-love is valuing your feelings and truly allowing yourself to feel them in the moment. Woo! How often do you not actually check in with the self and go, gosh, how is that hitting? You know, how often do we just push off what we actually think or feel and bury it? Self-love is practicing positive self-talk. Self-love is prioritizing your own well-being. Self-love is celebrating your achievements. I need to work on that one, to be honest with you. I need to savor my achievements more because I have a heck of a lot of them. And by the time I'm winning at something, by the time I accomplish something that I was running towards, I'm already off and running to the next thing. So I would love to learn more how to savor and really celebrate my achievements. Self-love is saying no thank you when whatever you're being offered isn't a hell yes. Self-love is honoring your body in every way. Self-love is pausing before responding. Ooh, that's another one that I've really had to learn. I had a teacher, Katie Rubin, who really, in one of the courses that I had taken with her, she really got into this one and it stuck with me. And it is something that I have truly practiced. And it is a fabulous tool in my life. I wait to respond. If there's a tricky email or there's a tricky conversation, there's a tricky text message, it can be, hold on one moment, I'd love to get back to you about this, but let me have a couple days to think about it, or whatever. There can be a response, but it doesn't have to be agreed upon in that moment or said yes to in that moment, or because then we just get into situations where we've said yes to things that we turn out to be resentful for later. So because I'm actually one of those people that when I say yes, I will do something, by golly, I follow through. I do not back down. I do not back out. If I say I'm going to do it, I do it. So I have to be really cautious about what I say yes to and what do I agree to. And we're trained, sort of this American training of having a cell phone in your pocket at all times. Immediate response. That's a tricky one. So self-love is pausing before responding to really check in with you and find out, well, what do you want? Self-love is wearing clothing that your body feels good in. I used to put pinchy shoes on my feet all through my high school. I didn't care. The fashion was more important than the feeling. Honey, I've worn the same brand of hiking shoes for the last 5 years. I found a kind I like. I think I'm on like that 8th or 9th pair. They better not stop making those. And I wear them with everything. I'm like, look up at my face. I don't care. We're not doing uncomfortable footwear. No more. I could care less. Because I'm comfortable. Self-love is moving your body the way it wants to move. Self-love is allowing yourself to rest. Self-love is making it a priority to get enough sleep. Woo! How often do you stay up past your bedtime? How often do you have to wake up really early and you still consistently stay up and on your phone or whatever you're doing and not allowing your body to truly rest? We need rest. These vehicles need to power down. Self-love is drinking water and staying hydrated. Sodas are not water. Our body is a vast percentage of water, and it needs H2O to run. So we need to drink water. We need to stay hydrated. It makes us feel better, and it makes our bodies work. Self-love is learning to quiet the mind and practice meditation. Again, this is my list. This is what I've come up with, but for me, that's a huge one. If we all started meditating, I believe it would be a way to live in a more compassionate society. That's just my personal belief. Self-love is forgiving yourself when you make a mistake. Self-love is being kind to yourself when you get sick. Ooh, that's a hard one. I used to be so angry with my body when I would get sick. And now when something like that happens and I get ill, I say, okay, honey, what do you need? Let's do some tea. Let's sit on the couch and do some TV. And while it might be scary to have to cancel plans and tell other people that, gosh, you're under the weather, again, by putting yourself first, it's like, you know what? I don't feel well enough to do this. I need to rest and recover from whatever illness or whatever is happening. Self-love is speaking kindly to yourself when you're hurt or injured and allowing your body to heal and recover. Self-love is accepting your flaws. Self-love is doing your shadow work and loving every aspect of yourself. Your inner darkness and your inner light are both held in equal esteem. Both are you, and both are worthy of unconditional love. That's a hard one too, right? We all have stuff that we wouldn't want to put out there and show others. And simultaneously, as we love every aspect of ourselves, it becomes so much easier to talk and share and just be a human. to share with one another because all aspects are great. My darkness is part of the funnier aspects of who I am. I embrace all of it, every little bit. Self-love is treating yourself with kindness and empathy. Self-love is prioritizing alone time. Self-love is connecting to nature. Self-love is learning to make the right choices for you, conducted from your internal guidance, not from exterior sources. So that's about getting quiet again, right? Because how can you know what choices you're making from the you and the higher self and the I am and all of that if you're unable to hear yourself? So again, that's learning to be connected to you, learning to hear your internal guidance, learning to follow your own feelings, your stuff, you. Self-love is following your bliss. Self-love is living your life for yourself. That's a hard one, probably, if you're a parent. We are the main character in each of our show, you know? This is our game. This is our play that we're in. As a recovering codependent, or a codependent in recovery, however we want to put that, I put other people first. My whole life, I learned to do this as a very young child, like 3. For me to say and fully embrace that self-love is living life for yourself, that is one that I have come to honorably and with great effort. So I really embrace that one. It feels selfish. Self-love is trying new things and allowing yourself to be bad at them. Well, I'm certainly displaying that as I try to learn how to make a podcast, as I'm learning to become a teacher, as I'm learning to lead meditations. I'm willing to put myself out there and be bad at them for a period of time because I'm going to get great at them. Give me 100 podcasts and I'll be doing it like old hat. And I'm willing to practice. And I'm willing to just get better in time. How often do we have to be perfect before showing yourself to the world, before presenting something? That's programming. That's trauma. Trauma telling you that you aren't allowed to try and fail along the way. Self-love is allowing yourself to explore your world without piles of self-judgment. That's a fun one and a great lesson that I learned and other people have learned being in the Burning Man community, going out to Burning Man. It's a place where a lot of times adults get to run around and you're playing like a kid and you're just having all of these wild improv style experiences. And I'll read it again. Self-love is allowing yourself to explore your world without piles of judgment. Self-love is to follow your joy and play. Self-love is a revolutionary act in America. We are programmed from infancy that we are not enough, so waking up to our enoughness as a birthright is a radical, profound act. We cannot be controlled, manipulated, or sold things that we do not choose when we are unconditionally loving to ourselves. And that's the whole bag there, friends. So deprogramming away from all of the things that tell you that you are not good enough, that you're undeserving of good, you're undeserving of feeling the self-love. Deprogramming away from that and like really going into self-compassion, kindness to oneself, all of that. It's a wonderful tool. It really elevates your vibration. It makes me more connected to the world around me, more connected to my higher self, more connected to nature. And then because I'm a woo-woo person, more connected to the multisensory world. What are some examples of self-love that you can think of? So for a little context, I thought I would just sort of share that this self-love process is like revolutionary for me because I came from a place of such incredible darkness. So I mentioned the childhood abuse, the molestation, and then that was followed by, feeling wrong and bad and doing pretty bad at school and just disconnected. And then I disclosed what happened to me around 11 years old, immediately popped into therapy, really intense, multiple time a week therapy, either in group therapy, private therapy, hitting things with a bat, baseball bat, like many things. My parents were on top of it and I was helped. I was believed and I was helped. And I had that concentrated assistance for 13 years of assorted talk therapies. And within that time, I was angry. So angry. And had this deep self-loathing. Like I wanted to punish myself. Like I felt like I was raised Christian, so I felt like I was of the devil. The whole situation sort of ripped the family apart. It was really awful. It was awful. And I was so angry. And art, journaling. I had some wonderful teachers in high school, some incredible teachers that all taught me like ways that I found to self-soothe. So it was still the healing journey. But it was rough times, man. It was pretty dark. So darkness inside. And then after college, I spent a year working for Philadelphia Mural Arts, but ultimately I ended up coming out to the Bay Area in California to help my sister. She is 15 years older than me, and she's an unbelievable human. Just an incredible, amazing, beautiful soul. But she had a successful event planning company, children's event planning company. And I came out to work with her. That was the track that I was going to take. And that began my 20-year-long career as an event planner. So I worked for her for 15 years, 9 months until the pandemic. And then I worked 3 years in floral, like gig work as a wedding florist, for a wedding florist. And then I went back with my sister and worked for her for a year, running specifically a crafting event in San Francisco. And then I retired to do the healing work full time. And I retired at the end of 2024. And boy, howdy, like saying that, like that's getting there was genuinely challenging to like walk away from something that I am superlative at. Just so good. And at the same time, it's like, okay, we've learned all the lessons I can learn around this, and now I want to do something else. So really fully accepting and opening up and walking into, I'm just going to work as a healer. Was a big deal for me. But that 20-year career as an event planner, I was faced with like all of these times when it was like impossible time crunches, impossible situations. And we always, no matter what, both in floral and when I worked with my sister, we always made everything work. Always. It could be down to the wire, and it always came through. That perfect first look ready for the photographers. Like it just always, we made it happen. But it was often through just sheer willpower and often literal blood, sweat, and tears. And through that whole time that I worked for my sister in event planning, I had this inner voice in my head. It's what I call now the egoic monkey mind. And that voice yelled at me. It was really mean to me. I would not talk to an enemy the way that I used to berate, belittle, and abuse myself in my internal stuff, in my mind. All the time, like, I'd drop something or I'd make a mistake, and like the first thing I'd say was like, "You stupid B word," right? I would always be calling myself the B word, like, and not in a fun way, like but like in a grumpy. And something that was always would come up for me, and something that the internal voice was always yelling at me is, "Why aren't you faster? Go faster, work harder, stop crying, you baby." Like, it was always just so mean. And then, of course, I think I've shared also that I had an eating disorder through this time period, which showed up as like many in all the forms that can look like. This was all me just trying to control. So then I would eat some sugar, and it was both a self-soothing mechanism and also it was a self-punishing mechanism, because the sugar would make me feel self-soothed for, honestly, usually like 3 to 5 minutes. Is very short-acting pleasure center. And then it'd be super fleeting. And then I would be self-punishing because that stuff doesn't make my body feel good. Like, I feel bad after candies and sugars and stuff. So it took me several years to deprogram away from that unhealthy, workaholic, give it everything until you pass out kind of vibe. I was so mean to me. I would punish myself for not being competent enough, fast enough, figuring it out, whatever it was, faster, 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 pushing my coworkers to be faster. How unhealthy is that? After I sort of like deprogrammed away from all of this, I remember writing an email to one of my coworkers and just genuinely apologizing. I was like, I wanted to say I'm sorry that I did not have the tools to be a better manager in that situation. It was interesting. He responded that he didn't experience it that way and that I was doing the best I could. But like, it was just, it was really interesting. But I wanted to apologize. I'm like, this is unhealthy. Like, I did not have the tools. And like, when I would ask for the tools, there was never enough time. There was never time to figure anything out because we had event after event after event piled. Like, I don't know how many we would do a year. There's 365 days a year, and it was something like, it was in the 300s, the amount of events we had. It was ludicrous. It never felt like we had enough resources. We were always making it work with what we had, and I was sick. I was like sick in my head. I was sick in my body. But it was all unhealthy, and I didn't know it. There was never enough time to like stop, reflect, look, see. I had so much to do that I wasn't ever able to examine what could possibly change. So I remember always like asking for some relief or some help or trying, but it just never came, and there was never time for it. It was always okay in the future, but there was never a future where there was time to deal with it. And I remember asking my ex-brother-in-law just for like management classes. Like, I had 8 years of art school. Like, I didn't know how to manage a team necessarily. I didn't know how to have the right words in incredibly high stress situations, how to like lead teams of people. So I know that I didn't do that well at the time, like, I mean, I got better at it in time, and I would be probably really good at it now with the tools, but like that I have now, but I don't know. It was just really damn challenging. So when the pandemic hit, I was able to slow down, to stop event planning, because the parties stopped, the events canceled. We're all here at home, right? And at that point, I had been in a really enmeshed relationship with my parents, because where I worked was far away because Bay Area traffic. It was far away from the offices. So sometimes I would stay at my job. I just stay with my sister so that I could be close to the warehouse where I worked, or I would, so that's just never disconnecting from your job, right? Or I would sit in horrific traffic going to and from work, and I'd talk to my parents on the phone because they're retired, and like that was, so I was very enmeshed with them. And often I feel like as humans, we have a tendency to stick around past the expiration date. I stuck around at this job probably 5 years, I'd say, too long, because it did serve me and I did love it for a period of time. But some things had come into place and I knew I wanted to leave, and then some other things happened and I felt like I couldn't. And I kind of felt trapped because, again, I'm a codependent. I'm working in a family business. And when I talk to my parents on the phone about this, I'd say, like, I'm unhappy. I don't want to do this. Like, I'm really walking myself sicker and sicker, closer to an edge. And like my dad would say, well, what are you going to do? This is the only work you've ever had. You can't leave your sister. Yeah, and those were like really painful things to hear. Because it definitely took away my autonomy, and it took away any thoughts I had about like how can I leave this? How can I do something else? He's right. Like, I dipped ice cream during the summers in college, and then I worked for my sister. Oh, and a year working at Philadelphia Mural Arts. That's it. So when the pandemic hit, and as I started to get involved with meditation, and as I started to listen to audiobooks and do walking meditations and learn the surrender release process, that's for another day. I'll tell you about the surrender release process. But I got super into Michael Singer and the Untethered Soul, and then just Michael Singer lectures in general. He's a wonderful teacher for me. And he teaches the surrender release process. He teaches about the voice in our heads and sort of recognizing them. And sort of sitting outside of oneself. So I learned that process. That took a long time to learn, but I did it. And then I learned that process, and I would just sort of share now as the big picture moving back. It is that process, and it's also being embodied, feeling all of the feelings and having all of that stuff too. So he doesn't have the whole story. He doesn't have the whole picture, but he has a part of it that I really needed at that time, and it really, really helped me. So I go through the surrender release process. And in doing so, I told my parents, I was like, y'all, I need 1 month where I don't talk to you, because I couldn't feel myself and I couldn't hear myself because I could just always have my parents' voice in my head, my mother and father. So I said, I can't talk to you for 1 month. And while that hurt their feelings, I set a boundary. And we ultimately ended up honoring it. We made it through that month. And that was really good for me, because I was able to hear Freda and know more for me, and not have the idea like, well, that I couldn't get another job or something like that. That's just simply not true. I have a myriad of talents. I can figure out something else. It's just simply not true. Don't tell me that. That's a fear thing. It's not mine. So I took that month off from then. And after that, I went through the process of saying, I need the same thing for my sister. Because the two of us were extremely intertwined. Extremely. And while there's massive amounts of love there, it was like, I've always loved my sister, but there was a period of time, like that 5 years closer to the end, where like I didn't like her very much. It was rough. So then I didn't talk to my sister. I didn't talk to her for 2 months. Because our energy was so incredibly entangled. I had no clue where she ended and I began. Super codependently entwined and enmeshed. And for those 2 months and longer, I would say multiple years, I just had this anger inside of me and this rage about how often I would betray myself when I was at that job. And I didn't know how to not betray myself. Like, I did things that I just didn't agree with. They were unethical to me, and I did them. Because when you're in these situations with event planning, it's just go, go, go. And like, it felt like I didn't have a choice. Even though pulled back from it now, we always have free will choice for everything. That's simply not true. But at the time, I didn't see any way out and any way to actually make choices for myself in the situations that I was in. Yeah, and I did stuff and I did things for clients that were unethical and I did not believe in for me. There was a perfect example of this is there were fires in the Bay Area. A lot of stuff was on fire, and we had an event planned. It was the Embarcadero building lighting ceremony, and it's thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And we were hired to do these like craft tables throughout an open air shopping mall, and it was something that the mall kind of like put on and paid for to get folks out for that right before Thanksgiving style, come on, let's get shopping. And then there would be fireworks, and it was like Disney on Ice. It was like sponsored and had all these different things. And it was a huge event. I don't know the number of people, but I think it was like 2,500 or something that we were going to craft with in like a very short window of time. It was like maybe 2 hours or something. And it's an open air shopping mall. And the sky was orange. And so much money had been spent for this event that the event was going to go on. And to me, that is unhealthy. We should not have been outside. We shouldn't be breathing in that air. The places in California at that moment in time that were on fire, what we're breathing in is computer parts. It's roofing tar. It is nasty out. I felt physically ill. This event is so huge that our staff was probably like 25, 30 people. Also, through the company, hired face painters and other style people that were assisting. And my sister, we went to the store and we got N95 masks, and that was sort of like the best that we could do was we put these N95 masks on, and then we went and did this event. And, I remember when we went to the store, the N95 masks were like 3 times as expensive as they normally were because the hardware store like yanked the price up because now everybody needs this. It was super crummy. And it was just, I didn't believe in that. I thought it was, so that's like an example. So I betrayed myself because I did it. And I remember my sister saying to me, because I was sharing my feelings out loud, I was like, I don't think this is right. And she says, we're doing this and you don't have to do it. You don't have to do it. But like, I didn't understand that was true. It didn't feel true to me. I thought, how on earth is she going to get all of this done? Because I was a major player on the team. Like, she'd be running one section and I'd be running another. I didn't understand how that was actually true. And I didn't understand a world if I actually said, I'm not doing it and walked away. I didn't actually understand the repercussions or like what that would actually look like. While I was literally given verbally a choice, I didn't actually feel like I had a choice. So that is one way in which I did not, like, what was going on at my job wasn't resonating with me. It's just one little thing. So I felt like I betrayed myself often and just shut down different pieces of me. So then it was just like, as I was going through this purging process, surrender, release, with so much anger and rage. And I was self-medicating with food, and that would either be binge eating or restricting. And I started to have some major health concerns to deal with. So, because I made myself sick from everything that I was doing. And I had to really look at myself and really assess what I was doing. I remember before the pandemic hit, there was a time where I remember praying that I would get cancer or something so that I could stop working, because I did not know how to leave my job. When I say that now, I have to chuckle at myself because that's absolute insanity. But that is the hellhole of my own making that I was in. I thought I had no choice. And I lied to myself. All the time I told myself a story. I'm so lucky that I get to work as a visual artist. I am so lucky that I work in the homes of the uber wealthy. I walk into these homes and I get to see art that I saw slides of back in art history class in college. I'm seeing and experiencing and in a world that is not reality all those years. So I told myself that I was lucky, that was interesting. It was more interesting than the everyday other person. And I had this like weird, fetishized, almost like pride about the workaholicness and the busyness. And it was just sort of like I thought other people were lazy and like that I was better because I even had the ability to push myself past the point of like physical injury. I would still be working. I was sick. It's like, oh, you work 40 hours a week? Well, I work 60 hours a week. Oh, you work 60 hours a week? Well, I work 80 hours a week around Halloween. Oh, or Christmas time, you know. I mean, it's sick. It's a sickness. Anyway, during the months of October, I would kiss my husband goodbye in the beginning of the month, and I'd just live at my sister's house for the month. And I'd come home again, you know, like around November 3rd, because there wasn't time for that commute. I just wanted to be there and I had to be there to get the work done. Like, it was that intense. It was that extreme. During that time, we had so many moments of success. We had so many wins, so many brilliant events. We would pull things off by the skin of our teeth that were just incredible, and people would have an amazing time, and we would create gorgeous environments to have these events in, and it was amazing, and we never stopped to celebrate it. We never stopped to pat ourselves on the back and be like, wow, man, we're doing a great job. Man, this is amazing. Wow, great job. It was always sort of just like, on to the next thing, on to the next thing, on to the next thing. We're late for this. Don't look back. Go, go, go. And when I think back, like, it's stressing me out sort of like talking about this, but I am so incredibly far removed from who that was. Like, every fiber of my being, it feels like my actual freaking DNA has changed from who that person was. Like, I am not that person. Not even nothing. That person isn't in here. I'm still I have a really strong work ethic, and I'm driven and dedicated, but like, no matter what, I put self-care first and foremost. Always. So self-love as a learned behavior really is a revolutionary act to me. It is deprogramming against America. It is this like, go, 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 push, push, push. You have to be part of a cog in a wheel of a machine that never stops cranking. And that self-love has connected me to my I am presence and my higher self and me, so that I can think for myself, so that I make choices from a grounded place, so that I've become so incredibly devoted to self-care. There's no going back. This is it. This is my life now, moving forward. And I'm not religious in any way, but the closest thing that I have to something that I'm dogmatic about is self-love. Practicing self-love and self-examining everything that I do at all times, always, understanding my motivations, understanding where it's coming from, pausing before responding or interacting with others. And this is exhausting, and it's occasionally insufferable. And this is my journey. This is where I teach from. This self-exploration is what lights me up. It turns me on. It is my everything. I will leave no stone unturned in my road to recovery, in my road to love, loving me, loving the world. I want to love myself, my body, my mind, everything about me, my choices, as much as the divine loves me, as much as universe loves me, the cosmos. I want to, my team on the other side, I want to love me in this physical reality as much as everything outside of myself loves and supports me. I want to love me as much as I love others. And I would ask you, sort of as I finish up my thoughts today, do you love yourself? And are you ready to try? Are you open to catching that mean little voice in your head and starting to self-soothe? Are you ready to start being nice to yourself? I would ask if you are willing, perhaps be nice to yourself as you navigate your day to day. Be nice to you. And thank you for joining me for a little storytelling about the darkness that I came from, and also a little sneak peek at the book that I'll be releasing shortly. It's been through the editor, it's been through the proof stage, and now it's in the process of just finalizing publishing stuff. And thank you for joining me and hanging out. And this is where I'll leave you, saying that I love you, the universe loves you, God, universe, source. You are love, and perhaps you practice some self-love today. Okay, bye.